Guys, I want to thank you for joining me tonight. So, in case you haven't watched me before, this is what I call In the Creative Studio Live. And I've been doing these sessions pretty regularly for this month. And the theme this month is loose style sketching. And that's my thing. I love to do loose style sketching. So if you don't know what that is, I'll give you a quick overview of what it is. You can see behind me the Cinderella's Castle sketch. So loose style sketches are very quick. It's a good way, an easy way to capture the feeling of a place or the feeling of a moment in time. You don't have to sit there for hours and you're not drawing every detail. It's really capturing the essence. And I'm going to go over that tonight, and we're going to create a harbor scene. So if you have a pen and a piece of paper, I would love for you to join along with me. So one of the things I like to do when I travel places is I always carry a sketchbook with me. I love taking photographs as well, but I also love sketching. And these are some examples from when I was up in Maine last time. Just some loose style sketches. So you can see a harbor scene in both of these images. And if you look really closely, there's not a lot of detail, right? Like, I'm not going for every single shingle or wave or tree in the background. I'm really just getting the overview of it. And that's what loose style sketching is. It's something I started doing probably back in college, where we had design challenges and critiques, and we had to get things together quickly for the professor to see. So we would just do sketching. It's just become part of what I do and what I love doing. It's also very therapeutic. I mean, these times are insane, right? It's from the pandemic to poor California with the fires and the earthquake. I mean, and I don't talk politics. I don't go down that road ever. But we have an election year coming, and I know that's just chaos as well. It's a real crazy time. So for me, creativity and artwork, painting, drawing, sketching, that's kind of a good therapy for me. It relaxes me and puts me in a good place. So that's one of the reasons I love doing this. So if anybody has a sketchbook out there and a pencil or a pen, piece of paper, let's go do some drawing. Let's go over to the board. And I'll be back. As you guys know that have seen this, I like to come back and talk to you. And sometimes it's not all about art. Sometimes we'll talk a little bit some positivity, some inspiration. If you guys have any words of wisdom you want to put in the chat, please share them with everybody. This is about a positive community. And let's foster that. Let's communicate and talk to each other. That's kind of that was my message for my students this week, is communication is key. Without communication, it's a total breakdown. Being home, we're all individualized. So we really need to amp up our positive communication with each other, whether it's virtually and talking through Facebook Live or Google Meet, or even texting someone or emailing. Be positive. Over to the drawing board. All right. Again, if you guys have questions or comments, let me know. Put them in the chat box. Don't be shy. We're all family here. All right, so I have a blank piece of paper, and I just want to start off, and if you guys can see this okay, let me know, or if you think it's too far away, I'll try to get some closer shots. This is a picture of a beautiful harbor. This is Booth Bay Harbor in Maine. And I thought this would be a good example that we could work with tonight. There's not a lot going on here. And I'm going to just give you my tools, my tips, and my techniques. And I'm not, this is my way. Everybody has their own unique way of doing things. So feel free to do this the way you like to do it. I'm not expecting what you draw to look like what I'm going to draw. And what I'm going to draw is not even going to really look like this. This is just our inspiration, okay? So we're going to put this over here. When I use my sketchbook and I'm traveling, I typically like to use two different types of pens. I'll use a fine point pen. This happens to be a Uniball Vision Elite. Pilot makes a nice pen. It's called the Pilot Precise pen. I use that one as well. And you can never go wrong with one of these bad boys right here. The good old Sharpie. Why I love Sharpies is, well, they're permanent. They're waterproof. So if you look at I'll actually pull one over here. If you look at this color rendering, you know, I have some Sharpie lines on here, and when I put an ink wash over this, it doesn't run. The ink doesn't bleed. So that's a real good reason for using a Sharpie or some kind of waterproof pen. Next week, we're actually going to be going over how to color or do a color wash on an ink sketch. So we're going to be doing something like this next week. Today we're just going to stay with black and white. Pardon me if I'm getting in the camera here. By the way, happy Batman Day. I have my Batman shirt on. I'm going to be watching Batman when we're done with our presentation tonight. So I'm a huge Batman fan, and I'm getting real happy and excited thinking about that. I'm also excited doing this. Okay, so before I do any sketch, one of the things I like to do is just clear my mind. I sometimes do these things called meditations. It's like a meditation for a few minutes. But tonight I just want to relax. If you're with me, you're drawing with me, just close your eyes for a minute. Take a couple deep breaths. Breathe in and out. In, out, in, out. And that's it. Just open your eyes. You should feel a little more relaxed. And to do loose style sketching, you want to just be really flexible and limber. So just take your hands and your pen and just kind of shake it around, loosen up a little bit. All right, let's do it. Let's do this thing. Whenever I'm looking at a scene and I want to sketch something, there's a couple of things I do. So I'm always approaching wherever I am with my senses. Not only am I looking, but I'm listening. In this case, I'm smelling. I'm smelling the salt air, maybe, of where we are. So I'm looking, I'm listening, and I'm smelling. I'm not really tasting anything here. But be open with your senses when you're looking around, because you never know where your inspiration is going to come from. It might be the sound of the water as it hits the boats. It could be the sound of maybe seagulls flying. Maybe the smell just invigorates you, the smell of the salt water. I don't know, maybe you're eating a Snickers bar, and that gets you going. But just be open and use your senses. As an artist and a creative person, I've learned to just become very open-minded about things. Like, yeah, this is a harbor scene. It has boats, it has water, a sky, and trees. Those are definitely elements of what I'm looking at. But there's really a feeling, a sense of time and place that's going on here. And for me, that adds another extra layer of what I'm doing. So I can go back 10, 20 years down the road, and I can almost remember the exact situation or circumstances and feelings I had when I was painting that scene or drawing it. So to start this off, I like to look at a scene quickly and then look at my paper. So I'm kind of going here with my eyes visually, quick to the paper, here to the paper. And the idea of that is I'm not trying to study the detail on this boat. I know you can't see it in your picture, I'm sorry, but there's, you know, a window and there's stripes on there. I want to get the overall shape of things. So here's what we're going to do. I see a few things going on here. First thing I'm looking at is I see a shape on here, and I see a rectangle. I see two. I see a rectangle for the water and a rectangle for the sky. So I'm just going to really just do real loose sketching. And I'm going to sketch just a rectangle, just an outline, kind of a frame of where we're going to be doing our scene. just a big rectangle. Now, if you haven't seen last week's session or the week before, I kind of got into a little more detail about how to tell a story with just a line. And I'm going to do a very quick review. I think it's an important tool. So let's go over to the whiteboard. Hope you guys are enjoying this so far. If I'm talking too much, let me know. So let's go over to the whiteboard for a second. I have this fancy dancy setup where I can spin the camera. If my body's in the way or my arm's in the way, just let me know. If I draw a line like this, I'm holding my hand and my wrist and my arm very tight, holding the pen tight, and I'm dragging everything as one unit. If I draw a line like that versus a line like this, and I'm exaggerating the waviness, but that's okay. These lines are telling two totally different stories. Can you tell me what maybe the line on the right is telling or trying to say versus the line on the left, the wavy line? So I see a question over here. How do you get it not to bleed? Yeah, so it depends on the type of pen that you use. And I could put in the chat, or I'll post on my page, either probably tomorrow. I can list some recommendations for you of pens that don't bleed. So if you're looking, or you're trying to guess what these stories tell, the line on the right is a very rigid line, very defining. It's kind of saying, hey, look at me. There's no mistake about what I'm trying to tell you. I'm right here. When I do architectural plans and construction drawings, they're very technical drawings. And the lines I draw for those blueprints are lines like this. They're very, very precise, and they're telling you exactly what they want to tell you. Compare that to this loose style sketchy line here. This is more vague, right? This has maybe a couple of words come to mind. Maybe it's playful. Maybe it's confused. Maybe it doesn't know where it's going. Maybe it has kind of energy to it. So, and it's definitely not as defined as this line. So those are two totally different line types. One other line that I like to use when I'm doing freehand sketching or loose style sketching is a line that looks like this. And I'm going to exaggerate it here for you. So if you look at that line, this line is almost a combination of this and this. And it kind of starts, stops, start, stop, continues, stop, and etc. etc., etc., etc. And the reason I sketch like that is there's a couple of reasons. One is, and probably the most important thing is, I like to leave a lot of imagination in my sketches to the person looking at it. Let me bring over this castle sketch. I think you can see it better if I just put this here for a second. So in order to get more interest in when someone's looking at your work, you want them, the viewer, like you guys right now, I want you guys to kind of be able to use your imagination and fill in the blanks. I have a lot of white space here. And by having the white space, it kind of engages you on a different level and allows you to kind of, fill in, like, in your imagination. Maybe you're picturing something going on here, right? And that's kind of the idea of this one individual line, is the same idea. I want you to kind of, your brain and your imagination, to fill in the blanks, just to keep things interesting. And that's just another technique for loose style sketching. You can see it in here. See, it's on camera. Yeah, it is. So if you look at the lines on this harbor scene, there's a lot of lines that are kind of starting and stopping. Not very well defined, like our solid line here. Okay? So that's just a quick, I mean, there's other things we can talk about with lines. These are kind of the three basic ones I wanted to talk about before I start the scene here. So you're gonna end up seeing this kind of vocabulary in the drawing. And again, this is gonna be very quick. So I have a rectangle. I'm just trying to frame out the view. And as I'm looking at this, I kind of see a line across here. And again, I'm looking at the picture and I'm going here, picture and here. And I'm doing it quickly. I'm just picking up details. So I see that horizontal line. And we're not talking about proportions right now or perspectives. We're not laying out the physical. You know, there's certain proportions in drawings and painting that make it more pleasing, but I'm not worried about that today. I'm just drawing. So I just drew a horizontal line, maybe where the water meets the tree line up there. Just so I know sky, water, done. I want to capture these boats. Now, to draw a boat, I'm going to go back to my whiteboard. This is kind of how I just draw a boat. I'm looking at the shape of the hull, and simply I'm just doing a line like that, just kind of curving the bottom a little bit, and bringing it up to a point. And that's what I did on these sketches over here. But you can tell they're boats, right, from the sketches. So it's just a line, kind of a curve and a line. And, you know, we have a sailboat here. So, simplest way to draw a sail is to draw the mast. You have the vertical piece. So just draw a vertical line. You know, it can be crooked, it doesn't matter. This is loose style sketching, and that's what's beautiful about it. You know, we have a kind of a shape like that. And then maybe we have the piece that's coming down like this. And I love sailboats, but I don't know all the proper terminology. So if anybody knows, let me know. I love Columbo. Now Columbo, there's an episode where he's learning boat terminology. Something about the mizzen mast and the boom. This might be the boom here. I don't know, I might have to watch that episode again. Yes, I got my nautical knowledge from Columbo. Who would have thunk it? You know, so I'm just drawing a horizontal piece, and I'm just going quickly on here. That is a simple, loose style sketch boat. You can I'll bring this over here, you can see it on here, the idea. Right in here, right? Same kind of concept. I have the similar lines. Let's go back to our drawing. And here we go. So the same idea. I have a boat over here somewhere. And maybe it's down here. I'm going to draw that shape I just talked about. When I do loose style sketching, I'm also going over the lines more than once. I'm kind of going over things. So I have kind of this thing going on. I'm not worried about proportions and the size of things today. You know, this mast here is coming up above where I have the horizontal line for the water, so let's bring it up. You know, we have this piece kind of coming down here, and we have this piece kind of hanging out over here. And then sometimes I just want to kind of anchor, yes, pun intended, kind of anchor the boat in the water. It's kind of floating right now. So I'll just kind of draw just some wavy lines like that, just to indicate some water. Freestyle sketching, a lot of artistic license. I'm not duplicating exactly what I see. You know, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I mean, there's at least 20 or 30 boats that goes way back. I'm just going to capture maybe this boat here, Maybe I see one over here I'll sketch in, and a couple over here. So let's go over to this side. Again, I'm looking here quick and coming back. This boat's a little smaller because it's further away. So just draw a smaller shape, similar to what we did over here. You can draw the mast coming up. And I'm using the lines we talked about on the board, kind of the lines that start and stop. You can see here. I did that technique on there. I see another boat. Maybe I'll put one kind of over in here somewhere. Now they don't have to all be exactly the same. Bring some variety to what you're doing. If you want to draw the Titanic on here, go for it. You want to make a submarine. It's all good. This is your creation. This is your world, your scene. Let your imagination go wild. And I'm just drawing some wavy lines just to indicate that the boat is on something over there, not just hanging out. You know, this sail isn't open, but you know, maybe I want to have a sail on here, so I'll just go like that. We got a sail. You'll notice when I do loose style sketching, sometimes I'm jumping all over the place, and that's based on, like I said before, I'm kind of looking back. All right, so I'm looking. I see there's some kind of buoys here. I guess the boats are anchored to them, so it's kind of a round shape, or half a circle, right? Because it's kind of floating in the water. Maybe there's one up here where this boat's anchored. Maybe there's one floating in the water here. One of the things I love about sketching or painting, and if you watch Bob Ross, you have definitely seen this. There's a point of transformation where what he is painting goes from nothing to instant amazing scene. It's really magical. That's one of the things that fascinates me about watching people like Bob Ross, is that I'm always waiting for that moment where, like, bam, like, this is so cool. When you're drawing and sketching, don't be frustrated. You know, right now it might look like a bunch of lines and nothing. The more you add to it, you're going to hit that magical transformation point where it's going to all of a sudden come together. So you have to kind of just go with the flow, basically. So we have some boats here. Maybe I'll draw, there's some small ones up here. Maybe I'll put a really small one up here near the top of the water line. It's interesting to me, and I'm just noticing it. If I have any nautical people out there or sailors, is there a reason that the boats are all facing the same direction? I mean, they're not sailing, so they're all docked. But it's interesting, they're all kind of, looks like they're all facing the same direction. So I have another one there. So I have 4 boats on there. Next thing I'm going to draw is I see a tree line up here. It's just another wavy line, basically, more jagged. I'm going to go back to let's go back to our whiteboard. I'm going to check over in the comments, see if there's questions, see how you guys are doing. But I do want to talk about one other line type on here. And I must use my Sharpie on this whiteboard. That would not have been cool. There's one more line type I'm going to add to this vocabulary of lines here. Yes, now we have half a boat. Hopefully it'll stay afloat. Alright, so if I draw this kind of line, what kind of story or feeling or emotion do you think this line has? Thanks again. Hope everybody has a great rest of your weekend and an awesome week next week. And hopefully see you back again. So thanks a lot. I appreciate you watching. Peace, and live a creative and an ink-inspired life. See you guys soon. Have a good night. This, to me, sometimes tells a story of a couple things. It could be energy. It's very energetic. Or angry. It could be a very angry line. Sometimes if I'm listening to, like, heavy metal or hard rock music, I notice that when the music I'm listening to will come out in my drawings. And if this is a hard rock or Metallica or something, it'll be jaggedy. It's a good way to get your anger and frustrations out. So definitely this is another line that you can add to the vocabulary of lines over there. Cool. All right, let's go back to our boat scene. Hopefully I'm on the right page here. So you can see we have our boats on there. Next thing I want to add is I want to add this tree line over here. So I'm just going to do a wavy kind of jaggedy line on there. Is jaggedy a word? If not, it is now. I like to say jaggedy. And I'm just exaggerating. I'm just doing I'm not trying to copy exactly what's over here. I just want to give you an indication that there's something in the background going on. So you have some kind of wavy lines back here just to indicate the trees going on. And there's some other things going on the shoreline. I see some buildings in the background. I'm going to add over here kind of just some very simple shapes to indicate maybe some kind of buildings going on. So I'm doing loose style rectangles. And I'm definitely using artistic license here. I remember there was a beautiful church on the harbor in Booth Bay, so maybe I'm going to add a little church type of building here. Peaked roof. Maybe some kind of a cross at the top. I'm going to actually bring the camera closer. You can see what I'm sketching up here. So here's kind of the church building, just a blue style rectangle with a triangle on the top, a cross. To draw windows, I'm just putting just little rectangles like this. Maybe there's a round window at the top of the church there where the bell tower is. And I don't want to get too detailed because this is not a close-up view of the church. I want someone to know that this is a building when they're looking at it. For the roof, I'm going to draw a horizontal line, just some vertical lines. Maybe it's some kind of a metal roof on the building. And last week we did a log cabin sketch that had a lot of more detail on it. So that's a good video to go back to, just to see how we indicate buildings when we're drawing them a little bit bigger in scale. So maybe there's a church back there. Maybe there's some other buildings back in here. Rectangles, just doing rectangles and triangles. Loose style. And I'm just letting my imagination play right now. I'm not even looking at the picture. Maybe there's some buildings here. There we go. And I'm going to put some real loose lines in here. So remember, loose style sketching, we want to leave room for people's imaginations to fill in the blanks. So just a close-up view of some of the things I sketched. Just a little loose building here, a few buildings over here, a couple more over here. And when we add color next week, you'll start to see things popping out a little bit differently. So I'm going to pull the camera back. Awesome. So as I'm looking at this, I want to add some more waves, just some ripples in the water, just so we know the difference between the water and the sky here. Right now it's very blank, very blank. So I'm just gonna do wavy patterns in here. You know, you can just go horizontal if you want. You could do some at an angle if you want. I'm not holding the pen very tight. It's very loose in my hand. And I'm just kind of shaking it a little bit when I sketch. Sometimes I'll just put some dots in here, dashes, just to make it a little more visually interesting. And this is fun. This is the fun part, is to be really very loose with these. You can make it as crazy as you want. You can have as few as you want. It's totally up to you. I like to step back from when I'm sketching. Just take a look at it. See if I want to add something. So I think I want to add, I'm going to just add a little definition just so our boats pop out a little more. And there's a couple ways you can do it. You can just start adding some shading with your pen. You can go back over the lines with a thicker pen if you have one. I like to sketch with these sometimes. So I have the regular Sharpie, but I also have the Sharpie Magnum. So you can see they're very different. Sharpie Magnum, I love drawing with a big pen like this on a big piece of paper. Because when the bigger size marker that you draw with, or pen tip, the less you're thinking about adding detail to something. Whereas if you go with a regular size pen, it's very small, so you want to start sketching detail with it. So in order to be very loose, I recommend going with a bigger size pen. And once you start adding detail, you might go down to the smaller one. Just a suggestion. Awesome. So I'm going to take my Sharpie, and there's a boat here, right? Now that you can see it. I hope if you can't see the boat, let me know. I kind of wish that Facebook had audio, Facebook Live, so you can hear people talking. Maybe I should try doing this like on a Zoom or something like that. That would be kind of cool. So here's my boat. I'm just going to kind of go over some of the lines I have. I just make them a little darker, just to pull things out a little more. You can probably hear the pen on the paper. So this one kind of popped out a little more, right, as I added lines to it. And I'll go back here and hit this one a little bit again. So as you're watching this, if you have any questions or comments or even takeaways, let me know. Put them in the chat box. I'd like to know what some of your takeaways are. And if you're sketching something, I would love to see you post it on the page. You could take a picture and upload it, and I'd like to see what you have. Just curious. So, and then I'm going to pull out these buoys a little bit more, you know. So we have our boats going on there. If you want, you could even start adding We're not really going to talk about light and shadow and shading, but if you want to, I'll give you. I'm going to go to a smaller size pen. Hopefully, you can see this. Try to get closer. I'm going to go down with the camera. There we go. So one of the ways to add shading in loose style sketches is to do a pattern like this. Let me do it over here first. There's a couple things. Let's just make a box. Now let's just say I want to add some some shadows to it, or shading, right? So the way I'm going to do it is like this. Take your pen. You can do a couple techniques. You can do the scribbling technique or the swirl technique, where you take your pen and exaggerate it. You just kind of do swirls like this. And you can go back over it. So you're kind of adding some shadows or shading to it. Another technique you can do is something like this. This is a hatching pattern where you can draw diagonal lines, leaving a space between them. So the closer the lines are, the darker it looks. The further you put them, the lighter it looks. So you can add shading like that. And then if you want to make something really dark, without coloring it in solid, we can do cross hatching. So we hatch one direction, we'll do diagonals in the other direction. This is called cross hatching. And you can see, the areas that I cross hatched over are darker than the areas down here. The reason I don't always like to do shading, I don't like to color anything really solid. Occasionally I will for small size windows, is that if you make it too dark and solid, there's a chance it might be too powerful and take away from the rest of the sketch or drawing. So I like these techniques where it leaves some white between the lines. Okay, so I'm just going to come back to our harbor scene over here, and I'm going to add some hatching to the boat, just to give it some texture, a little more definition. So normally I'm going to try the fine tip pen. Hopefully it shows up okay. Otherwise I'll switch to the Sharpie. And I'm going to just go with the kind of the swirling technique I did over there. And I'm not going to color the whole thing. So I think you can see that on the. If you can't see that on your view, let me know if you can see that okay. So we got a little bit of texture on there. Let me do some on the sail area. Maybe in the sail I'm going to do the hatch technique I talked about and just draw some lines. We have this little boom area. Just giving some line work to that, just to pull it out a little bit. So you can see just by adding some of those lines on here, it's just adding another level of interest to the drawing. I don't want to say detail, it is detail, but when I say the word detail, what comes to my mind is details like showing every single bolt on the boat, or every single bolt, or how it's constructed, the technical aspects of it. One thing I think I want to add as we're talking is, maybe this is a wooden sailboat. Maybe I want to just show some horizontal. I'm going to take my Sharpie so you can see it. Just some horizontal lines on here. You need to indicate some kind of planking. And I'm going to come up here and do something similar to this boat. Just add some texture here, some shading. All right. Cool. So we got some shading on there. Got the one back here. Got our buoys. Just adding some line work to the buoys to pull them out a little bit. So I think for me, I'm hitting that point of transformation where it's actually starting to come together. I'm going to check the comments over here, and then we'll wrap this up. All right, so I'm looking at the comments here. Hey guys. Looks like, hey John, thank you for joining. I hope you're having a great night. Hope everybody is well and healthy in your family. So as I look at the comments, let's see. Okay, Al, thank you. My wife's and mine look like we're in kindergarten, maybe, first grade. That's perfect. I want it to look like you're in first grade or kindergarten. That's what loose style sketching is, right? We're not looking for details. We're looking for imaginary pictures, fill in the blank pictures. If you're brave enough, I'd love for you to post a picture of what you guys are doing so I can see it and share with everybody. Thank you for following along. Yeah, so don't worry about that. We're not trying to create a realistic picture. I've never learned realism. It's something I have never done, but I'm sure with years and practice I can do it. That's another reason I love loose style sketching, is I can be very interpretive about what's happening, you know. So I love that comment. Thank you. Al, make sure you guys hang it on the fridge when you're done, okay? Awesome. All right, so what else? So just looking at the comments. Good, I think I caught up with those. Awesome. Thanks for staying on with me. We're going to wrap up in about 10 minutes. And then I like to always wind down these sessions with just a couple of things that maybe we learned throughout the night, and we'll just wrap it up. Or who knows, it could be anything. Usually ends up being some kind of maybe a message of inspiration or positivity. Awesome. So let's go back to our board. And it's interesting, I'm actually looking on my computer here. I have two screens. I could see me and I could see the board in the other one. And you guys can definitely see the painting, or the sketch, I should say. So that's good to know. All right, so let's go back over to the other view. All right. So sometimes it's good to step away from what you're doing. Not just artwork, but anything in life. Sometimes we need a break, step away, and then come back with a fresh pair of eyes and a new perspective. So that little break over there, chatting with you guys, I stepped over here, and as I look at this with a new set of eyes on it, I definitely see something I'd like to add. Can anybody tell me maybe something I can add to this that will just give it another level of interest, or maybe define something or call out something that's in the scene that I really didn't show on here? There's a couple of things that come to my mind. So let me know, what do you think I can add on to this that maybe is here but not here? I'll let you think about it. Thank you, Al. Definitely bring them in. I'd love to see them. Give me even more motivation to go to school Monday. Yes, love it. I love, as you know, I love teaching. I love going to school. I don't care if I'm teaching in school or at home. I'm there for the kids, man, and I love it. It's awesome. And you too. Clouds. I see clouds. Yes, that was one of the things I noticed was clouds. 10 points for you. 10 points, man. Awesome. So we're going to add some clouds on here. So how do we do clouds? Good question. If you look at the board over here, and you can see it down here in this image, I added clouds with color on this, and I put like oranges and reds in here just to give an indication of some clouds going on. But we're not adding color today, so how could we show the clouds? Well, we could go back to the whiteboard. I'm liking this whiteboard thing. We could do clouds like this, and let me just erase this. Have more space to work with. We can do kind of cartoony clouds. Right? Very cartoony. Which is cool if you want to go that route. I think for this, I kind of want to keep it simple and loose style. So a couple of things we could do, maybe we could do some kind of just lines, just soft lines to indicate clouds. I know it doesn't look like clouds here, but when we add to the picture, it will. I've seen another technique, which I might do on this, is, see if we can sketch it here. Let's see, that's our water. Let's say our sky's up here. One of the ways I tend to do clouds is I scribble the sky, and I leave white areas where I want the clouds to be. And I think we'll do that on our sketch tonight. Pardon me if my arm is in the way here. It'll show better when I do it in the bigger image. But the idea is to do squirrely, scribbly lines and leave white areas where you want clouds. So you can kind of almost see, right, some cloud formations going on here. So let's do that to our drawing here. Cool. So we're going to do the scribbly, swirly technique. If you can think of a better name than that, let me know. Scribbly, swirly. I'm almost tempted to try the big Sharpie. I'm almost afraid. But I kind of got to practice what I preach, and that is when we're doing stuff like this, there are no mistakes. Just go for it. So let's try the Sharpie. Typically, I would actually use a very small pen to do this. It's a big area. Let's see what happens. Right? There are no mistakes when we're doing artwork. I learned that from Bob Ross. There's no mistakes or happy mistakes. Happy little mistakes. Happy clouds. Happy trees. He's awesome. I love that guy. So let's try it. So I got my big Magnum Sharpie only because I wanted to use it today. And I'm going to do the swirl technique I was just telling you. And if it looks bad, I'll switch. It might be a little overpowering. And where the tree line is, I'm just going to do the swirly just to the top where the trees are. So I want them to read. So I'm just working that line first along the bottom because I know I kind of want to hold that definition. You can go outside your box area, that's cool. One of the things I like to do with sketching is I kind of like to go outside the lines or outside a frame because it allows the viewer to use their imagination to continue the story. So like I have it in the box here, maybe we'll just do some of that. So I'm going to just be quiet for a few minutes, do some scribbling, and we're going to wrap this up after we do this. Just remember to leave some white areas. Unless it's a rainy day and you want to shade everything, go for it. So just for the heck of it, I'm going to switch to the other size Sharpie. I really don't like the big Sharpie. I would rather have done the smaller one. But at least I tried. love the sound of the pen on the paper. Part of that sensory experience we talked about. And I'm just randomly going around here. Wherever I think I want a cloud, I'll leave a white area. I actually got this technique from a professor I had in college. I have some of his drawings down here somewhere. But this is how he would draw his skies. He was a really, really talented architect. And with these, when I do this technique, I'll usually go back over some areas. Remember, leave the white spaces where you want your clouds to be. Don't scribble in those spots. So you can kind of see, right, that we just have some white areas. Now, this is interesting. Now I step back and look at it on camera. It almost looks too, it's not random enough. It looks like cloud, 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 cloud. I almost wish it was more random looking, so that's easy to do. Any suggestions on how I could fix that? Just color it in, right? So let me color it in. Maybe I won't color that one in there. And maybe this one here we'll get rid of. This is very therapeutic for me. I could keep scribbling on all night doing this. It's looking a little more random now. It kind of is. They're all two in line. Let's get rid of one more, and I'll be happy. Get fussy. One more thing I'm going to add. I promise. Then we're done. One more thing. I kind of want to just pull out where the trees are, or there's like trees back in there. And I'm going to do that simply with just vertical lines, another layer of lines on there. So they're just going to be vertical. And again, I'm not trying to draw trees, I'm just indicating some verticality back here just to add another level, another line type to our language here. Not going to put the vertical lines over my little buildings. And just some vertical lines just to break it up a little bit. And that is a wrap on that sketch. A frequent question that comes up a lot is, how do I know when I'm done? And really it's a gut feeling. I just go with instinct, and when I feel like I'm done, I'm done. You could always come back and add stuff to a sketch rather than take it away. So I think I'm done. You know, next thing I would do is maybe add a color wash on here with either watercolors, or I like to use these. These are acrylic ink paints right here. I'm going to get some for next week. I think they're empty. But I like to use these ink washes on here. Awesome. So that is Blue Style Sketching Harbor Scene. Hope you enjoyed it.